More details about the Antioch High School shooter, Solomon Henderson, have been uncovered as we're now finding out that apparently firearms were removed from his home back in 2023. Police said that they belonged to the adults in the home, so I'm assuming his parents, and currently remain in the department's property room. But that's not all. On Thursday, police confirmed that the firearm that was used in Wednesday's shooting was purchased by somebody in Arizona back in 2022, but it was not reported stolen. The question is, how did Solomon Henderson actually get hold of this weapon? Was it at all related to the visits that were paid to Solomon Henderson's home? Well, we're going to get into all of that and more in today's video. Hello, and welcome back to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this absolutely heartbreaking story, the Antioch High School shooting that took place earlier this week on Wednesday. So as I said earlier in my intro, more details have come out over the last couple of days, last 48 hours really, about Solomon Henderson, the 17-year-old who was responsible for taking the life of Josselin Corea Escalante, a student at Antioch High School. Another juvenile was also injured as well in the attack before Solomon turned the firearm on himself and took his own life, while part of it was partially live streamed. So we have a lot to go over in this video. Again, just a complete and utter trigger warning. I don't typically like talking about cases involving young people. It's just especially sad to me, but I think this is incredibly important, especially because I do have some personal connections to this actual incident. So let's dive in. So first up, I want to get a little bit into his background here and excuse all the ads, and also kind of summarize what exactly happened and took place. So according to News 2 WKRN, Solomon Henderson, he's 17 or was 17. The MNPD confirmed that in 2023, 2 firearms were removed from his home. Now, police did not say why those firearms were taken, only that the investigation that resulted in the firearms being located is protected by juvenile confidentiality. So again, there's not a whole lot of information. I've seen some reports about whether or not they really belonged to Solomon. If so, why? As somebody who has recently moved from New York to Tennessee and is, there's a lot of different laws here, right? Especially in regards to firearms. And according to the Googs, the minimum age to purchase a handgun is 21 in Tennessee. My understanding is that you don't need a license either. But if you want to purchase a rifle or a shotgun, you have to be 18 under the federal law. But there is no minimum age to possess in Tennessee. Now, he did not use a rifle or a shotgun. He used a pistol, as what we are going to soon find out. And we're also going to find out that apparently the weapon that he used was purchased out of state, in Arizona. So again, different state, different laws. Whether that was done legally or not, we are going to find out potentially in today's video. Henderson was able to bring a 9mm pistol into the school without alerting an AI weapon detection software before firing a total of 10 shots within 17 seconds. This is especially concerning, and we're going to talk a little bit more about AI's role in all of this, whether or not that's enough. I mean, clearly, if this is going undetected, there needs to be more steps in place, in my opinion. On Thursday, again, police confirmed that this firearm that was used in the shooting was purchased by someone, so not by Solomon, I'm assuming, unless he used a fake ID. That information we do not know yet. In Arizona in 2022, but it was not reported stolen. So he didn't steal it, and I'm assuming it was legally purchased, if they have some kind of record of it. So who was it? Was it the father? Was it the mother? Was it another relative? A friend? Right? Because as we're going to soon find out, Solomon was connected with another school shooter. So it's very possible. Is there a network of these kids? So this is a quote from one of his classmates who said that they were in the ROTC together this year too. He was always the top of the class, always doing his work, which is another thing that seems so familiar too, right? We've heard that time and time again about a lot of these school shooters. News 2 confirmed, I want to say News 12, I don't know why, confirmed that the shooter went to school in Montgomery County, Tennessee before moving to Antioch. I'm curious to know why they moved counties. If it was because maybe he was struggling in school, I'm sure we'll find out more. He definitely was struggling mentally. That's for sure. A spokesperson for the district confirmed Henderson spent time at Barksdale Elementary and Richview Middle School. He then transferred from the Clarksville Montgomery County school system in the 2020 to 2021 school year, so during COVID. Additionally, News 2 reported on allegations that Henderson pulled a knife against another Antioch High School student about a month prior to the deadly shooting. In the days following the shooting, separated and unrelated threats have been made for other shootings across Nashville schools. So I actually got this tip off. There have been arrests since then of actual children, like 12-year-old kids who were threatening to commit the same exact acts. What is wrong with our children? And I have to ask, I have to wonder, what is going on in these kids' homes, right? I feel like, as somebody who's grown up in the age of technology, in the age of cyberbullying, somebody who has also been cyberbullied, right? At the birth of Instagram, at the birth of TikTok and Vine and all of those social media platforms, right? Twitter, Facebook, gosh, MySpace, oh my gosh. How have things so badly escalated? And why are things seemingly getting worse? And again, I know a lot of people are going to point the finger at social media, but it's not social media that commits these crimes. It just makes it easier for depraved humans to connect with other depraved humans. And instead of just passing more laws and trying to push these things away to the side and think that people are just naturally going to abide by the laws, why don't you actually do something and adapt to the changing times? Technology is only going to continue to advance. Instead of fighting it, adapt to it. It might make us feel uncomfortable doing certain things, putting together extra security measures to protect our children. But if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. We adapt. We adapt so we can survive. There were some students that also made some threats in the last day or so. District 32 council member Joy Stiles said they have also been apprehended and charged for speaking out and saying they were going to harm anyone. And that's important too, is like, yes, kids can't get, we went over this too in my To Catch a Predator video as well. Those stupid college kids who thought it would be fun to play Chris Hansen. It's sick. It's absolutely sick, and people need to feel the consequences. And no offense, I don't care how old you are. This is serious. The only way that you're going to get that message sent across is if you do charge these kids, if you do uphold them to the utmost highest law, because it is serious. Lives are in danger. And people thinking like that, children thinking like that at a young age when their brains are still very much developing, is absolutely scary. What kind of adults are they going to grow into being? But I also think it is a delicate balance, right? I think there are some kids wanting attention. Their desire may not be to actually hurt someone. It's their means of cry out for help. So how do we differentiate between true violence and a need to have some attention? I highly disagree with that comment, because if you want attention, there's 1,000,007 ways to do that. And not for nothing, But typically, from my non-therapeutical licensed brain, but typically when a child is suffering with their mental health and they're struggling and they're going through it, it's a cry for help. It usually is something internal, something that they turn onto themselves. They don't want to hurt other people. They want to hurt themselves. And I know this is a completely uncomfortable thing to talk about, but it's true. I mean, any time that as a child, right, I have felt like I needed attention from my parents, I would turn to things that would hurt me, not hurt other people. And I think that's a really dangerous message to be spreading across, is to say, well, it's okay to make these threats. It's okay to say these things if you don't really mean it. Well, how do you know who means it and who doesn't mean it? There is no way to know. And so you need to take these things seriously. And other kids need to see that these are the consequences of saying things like this, of making threats. This is not a joke. This is not funny. This is not just something that you say and let loose on the tip of your tongue. No, this is a very, very serious thing. And when you say things, you get consequences. You might get charged with something, because you have to learn from your actions that that is not okay. And I just don't think that that's a good message to be spreading. But I want to know what you guys think too, right? So in 2023, the district approved a $1 million project to implement an add-on, an AI add-on to the existing camera network to scan for weapons. Do we continue with those camera styles added? Do we add some detectors that perhaps are not as jarring? And I have a lot of thoughts about AI. I mean, AI is still so very new, something that we are constantly learning how to use, how to implement, but also something that is trying to learn itself. As somebody who works on a daily basis with AI technology, it's very far from being perfect. It's something that is super far away from replacing us. Like, I know everybody's afraid of, oh my God, AI is taking over and robots and yada yada. We are so far from that happening. It's absolutely insane. And I think it's absolutely asinine to be 100% relying on technology to determine whether or not there is somebody who's coming into a school with a dangerous weapon, right? I just don't think, I think it's careless. I think it's lazy. It's a way for them to pay less people to do the job that should be done by a human, right? MNPS leaders have reevaluated some safety protocols after firearm detection did not see the shooter holding a firearm. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell said Friday that if MNPS decides to approve the use of stationary metal detectors across the district, they would get budgetary support. And they should. I mean, not for nothing. Not for nothing. If you're going to cough up millions of dollars to spend on building a brand new stadium for a failing football team, I mean, I think you can make a little wiggle room for protecting children in schools. But okay, Freddie, if they determine that metal detectors are an appropriate next step to take here, we will make sure we are in a position to support that from a budgetary standpoint. But I am also going to be driven here by what is the most effective measure for keeping students safe at schools. I mean, clearly the AI detection software didn't work. And now, if anything, we've learned this from the Luigi Mangione case. Ghost guns, right? You're able to create parts of a gun through 3D printers. I mean, how crazy is that? And who knows what can be detected by what type of software and what not, especially if you can create a firearm using 3D parts, right? So I feel like, and that's not even to say, who knows if metal detectors can even pick that up as well too. But I just think you need to take as many precautions as possible. And no, that's not going to stop these things from happening 100%, but it will definitely lessen the chances. And it's sad to say that this is where we are in our society, but we need to adapt. However, as the conversation continues about school safety, O'Connell emphasized that he is working to ensure school safety on a city level. So there we have it. So that's the first article I wanted to go through. Next, I wanted to just, again, go a little bit more into his background. Back in 2023, police were at Solomon's house. And apparently, they recovered 2 firearms that I guess have just been chilling in their storage facility. Like they've just been holding on to them. I don't know what came of it. It doesn't seem like anybody got charged, but let's dive in. So WSMV4 Investigates has confirmed with the MNPD that 2 firearms were removed from the home of Antioch High School shooter Solomon Henderson back in 2023. An MNPD spokesperson confirms that the 2 firearms belonged to adults and have remained in the department's property room. Since then, I hope they are bagged and tagged appropriately and they are not taking a lesson out of the Canton Police Department. WSMV4 Investigates is now asking for more details as to why the firearms were removed in the first place, and will report back what we found. The removal of the firearms is noteworthy, as Henderson writes in his manifesto. So he had a 288-page manifesto, which I am not going to read through. I read through probably the first 10 to 15 pages or so, and it's just absolutely disturbing. I had my house raided once. They found a firearm. It was mine. LOL. My dad took the blame. So that great. I mean, if that's true, that says a lot about his parents. And I understand that as a parent, you'll go to the ends of the earth to protect your children. I don't know what that personally feels like. I don't have children yet. I do potentially plan on to with my partner eventually, but when it comes to right and wrong and you covering up potentially the fact of your son possessing something extremely dangerous, and the police are knocking on your door wondering why your son is in possession of said firearm, because I'm assuming it wasn't a shotgun or a rifle, that's a little bit of a problem. Like, don't you want to ask your son, like, hey, what's the deal with all of this? You're just going to cop the blame? Encouraging that behavior is not helping the problem. I'm sorry. And you are as guilty as your son. And you should be held accountable, because that, if that is true, that is shameful. Confirmation of the removal of the firearms from the Henderson home is the latest details confirmed about Henderson's troubled history. The streaming platform Kick, I didn't even know kids still use that, confirmed that Henderson partially live streamed the attack at Antioch High School. WSM4 Investigates has reviewed a recording of that live stream. Again, I'm not going to play it. It's just disturbing. I feel like people don't need to see that. It's out there. You can see it if you want. The video at first shows Henderson's foot on the blue and white floor of the cafeteria at Antioch High School. Henderson tries to open a door. You can hear students in the background laughing and calling out. For a moment, you see Henderson's shirt. It features a grinning skull. The image flips to Henderson walking, and then for a brief moment, he opens his backpack. For a second, and it's not even a full second, it's like a half a second, the barrel of the firearm is shown, then the recording suddenly ends. 2 sources familiar with Henderson's disciplinary history with MNPS confirmed that he had long been a concern, which is also equally concerning. These sources confirm that Henderson got into trouble after bringing a box cutter to school. So I'm curious if that was the knife that he had pulled against another kid. I mean, why wasn't this kid kicked out of school? Why are you allowing, and this is the fault of the schools too, no offense, why are you allowing somebody like that who is open and willing to bring a dangerous weapon, pull it on another student, and reintegrate them back into school, like as if nothing happened? Sure, yeah, I'm sure he got suspended or detention or whatever, but what is that doing? I mean, it's like, this is why we have prisons, because we take the people who don't know how to integrate in society with healthy thinking normal people, and we remove them because they're dangerous, because they can hurt other people. That is why we have the prison system. Whether it's actually effective in rehabilitating people or not is a totally other conversation for another day, but that is why we have prison systems. And this is why I think, again, it's incredibly dangerous. It goes back to the conversation of, allowing people who are extremely unwell, extremely mentally ill, and who are making visible, viable physical threats in, take New York City, right? And just going up to people and slashing their faces and just allowing them to run rampant, right? Because, we can't find a shelter to place them in. They're not safe to be integrated in society, period. They need to be removed from society or until they can get the help that they need. And it's just so sad, again, because clearly this kid was super, super mentally disturbed. So he got suspended. And then you just, again, you let him go back into school, like as if nothing happened, and you're just keeping your eye on him. And I understand you want to give him the opportunity to learn. He has a right to a good education, yada, yada, but not at the expense of other children's lives. These sources confirmed he was also suspended after getting into a fight when he said he was insulted by a student, and that in middle school he was disciplined after threatening a teacher's life. So this is not just a one-off thing. This has been going on for years and years and years. The police have been to his house multiple times. He has this manifesto. I mean, all the signs are ringing. Hello? Why does this keep happening? They also confirmed that 2 documents, 151 pages in length, another 288 pages, are believed to have been written by Henderson. Police said those documents show that Henderson was significantly influenced by web-based material, especially that were found on non-traditional sites that most would find harmful and objectionable. WSMV4 investigators have reviewed these documents, which Henderson writes of his praise for other school shooters, detailed instructions on how to make a bang bang, and his plans for launching a school shooting while live streaming it, because that seems like totally so much fun. Why don't you just play Call of Duty like most teenagers do, right? You can live stream that. Live stream your gameplay. Those documents also show photographs of Henderson holding a pistol. So there's that. So what exactly is this AI-powered weapon detection software that costs $1 million to fund and place? And why didn't it work? Why didn't it do the thing that it was supposed to do? Well, according to the Mirror, despite a high-tech artificial intelligence-powered weapon detection software installed on all the surveillance cameras at Antioch High School, he was still able to successfully bring a firearm into the building, which he used on Wednesday. So it was revealed by the schools that the system's failure in an update earlier this week, the software, which is known as OmniAlert, is an add-on to the camera network at all MNPS campuses, a spokesperson told the Tennessean, which just sounds like, to me, it just sounds like it's an extra. It's not like a high-tech, like super smart. Here I'm thinking it's something that like the military uses. It costs like $1 million. So did the camera system itself cost $1 million to place, or was the add-on, the OmniAlert, the thing that cost $1 million? Like, it just sounds like the thing that you just tick on your little app update, right? Of, hey, do you want to add this thing? Yeah, sure, I'll do it for an extra $10 a month, whatever, right? So the district have reportedly invested over $1 million into the software after the MNPS board approved a contract back in February 2023. In this instance, based on the location of the shooter, the position of the weapon, it did not activate the system. Okay. the system activated when armed police officers entered the school. However, he added, now MNPS Director Adrienne Battle said she's committed to increasing safety measures, yada, yada. So why, I guess my question is it because the firearm was too small to see? But then that kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like, of the AI's weapon detection software. Is there, I don't know. Is it the placement of the cameras? But obviously nothing's going to be perfect, but all the more reason why you should just have something in place at the entrance of the building, right? At every single entrance and exit into the building, right? Every single one, metal detectors, clear backpacks, which a lot of schools I think have already put into place. You know, when you think about, I was just talking about this earlier too, when you go to a music festival or anything like that, you have to, a lot of times now, you can't enter a festival or a stadium wearing any kind of backpack or bag. It has to be a clear bag or backpack, depending on the weight and size. And yeah, it's annoying, it's inconvenient, but it makes me feel better. It keeps people safe. It's definitely reduced the amount of incidences like this. She noted that multiple safety measures were already in place, including school resource officers who had been in different parts of the building rather far from the cafeteria where the shooting occurred when it happened. So again, how many of these resource officers are on staff? How are they trained? Who are they trained by? What are they armed with? Right? These are all the questions that I would have as a parent. Secured vestibule at the entrance and the aforementioned security cameras equipped with weapon detecting AI. It just seems so lazy to me. And this is, like, again, as somebody who uses AI on a daily basis, if I just let AI do everything for me, I mean, get absolutely nowhere. You have to. Everything needs a human touch to everything. And I think it's just extremely lazy and irresponsible to leave everything up to technology when, again, AI is still very much in its infancy stages. I don't care how high tech things are today, right? It's still learning, and it's going to take time to learn, to perfect over time, and it takes a long time. She went on to praise the staff, including the school resource officers, who rushed to the cafeteria after the shots rang out. But again, why? A cafeteria is where there are a lot of students in one place. So why wouldn't there be a resource officer already present in an area where there's going to be a large group of students at once? Just like I would think a library in the school as well too, the auditorium. Where are the most likely places where these incidents take place? I mean, look at Columbine, right? They started out in the cafeteria. So why hide these resource officers who are essentially supposed to be there to protect these kids? It doesn't make any sense to me. While we've been focused on addressing the immediate situation, we're committed to understanding yada yada. Following Wednesday's tragedy, Antioch High School was slated to remain closed through the end of the week. There's now a hub set up at the Southeast Community Center at 5260 Hickory Hollow Parkway, where staff, students, and family members from Antioch High School can pick up meals, receive counseling, or pick up boxes of food. I mean, again, that's all great and grand, but like, what are you doing to protect these kids? Like that's what parents want to know. And apparently now, so this is where we're going to kind of round things off, right? So there's a potential cell phone ban bill that's going to be, I guess, in place. So let's check this out and see what this is about.
This bill is being brought to light after yesterday's deadly school shooting at Antioch High School. Our Sharon Dankwood joins us live now. And Sharon, what are parents telling you?
Well, Marius, Tracy, some parents say having cell phones in school is distracting, so they should be taken away, while other parents believe restricting cell phones during emergency situations like the tragic shooting right here in Antioch High School could lead to issues.
I have a child that's just now.
I mean, just like, again, right off the gate, this isn't, schools are not prison, right? It's not prison. And I understand it can serve as a distraction, but surely there needs to be a better way. And I have to agree. I mean, the reason why I am assuming most parents allow their children to have cell phones is to have a way of contacting them in the event of an emergency and stay in touch. And nowadays, again, it feels like it's such an unsafe world that we live in. And it's so sad to say that, but it is. And I just can't imagine what I would do if I had a child.
Just the thought of sending his son to school in a world where students are dying in a cafeteria is something Jeffrey Woodson says he can't even fathom. But it's the reality for parents at Antioch High School who rushed here to pick up their kids.
I was relieved when I was able to call her while I was still at work and hear that she was okay and she was locked in a classroom.
And that ability to contact students in the midst of an emergency like a shooting is what has parents like Woodson pushing back against a bill that could ban cell phones from being used in class.
So as a parent, I want to know if my child's all right immediately. I don't want to wait 3 or 4 hours till they at a place where I'm meeting up with my kid.
Now, if the bill passes, each district will come up with a policy to help stop students from using their phones. That means requiring them to turn it off, put it away, or their phones could be confiscated and even required to be put in lockers.
I have one of my workers, my co-workers, that had...
Well, here's another idea. Why don't we just look at the way that the education system is set up? Why do kids need to be in school for 8 hours a day? Why do they need, I guess, like, how many classes are they taking? 7 to 8 classes for 45 minutes a day. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I always felt like it would be way more effective, and I know this is a different conversation, but wouldn't it be more effective to take a look at the education system and say, hey, why don't we reduce the amount of time that students are in school per day, use it more intentionally to focus on the core subjects that they need to learn to graduate, etc. And maybe that'll reduce the need for them to want to feel distracted all day long. I mean, you think about it, you're in school 8 hours a day, you're up at the crack butt of dawn, and you're in the same building around the same stinky, smelly teenagers all dang day. Then you have to go home and do more work. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like this is such a larger conversation that needs to be had. And I understand, yes, cell phones can definitely distract. Thankfully, I didn't grow up being attached to the hip to my phone. I didn't get my first real cell phone until I was still on the pay-as-you-go plan in 6th grade. So back in the day when you had to pay for like 10 cents per text or 15 cents per text, and if you ran out of all of the money on your account for the month, then you were screwed and you had to wait until the following month to text. So I feel like phone plans are obviously not going to change, right? There is a way. I do think it's important for kids to stay in contact with their parents, absolutely. But I think reforming the education system as a whole, maybe reducing the amount of time that kids have to spend in school per day, allowing them to focus more on the important subjects that are actually going to help them evolve into productive adults when they are ready to graduate, might be a little bit more effective than saying, hey, let's just take away your phones. That's extremely dangerous, in my opinion.
The daughters at the school that witnessed it. That's her first line of communication, let her know her kids was okay. She got a text saying it was an active shooter. 2 minutes later, she got a call from her kids. Now, just imagine if she couldn't have done that.
I asked legislators supporting the bill what they had to say to concerned parents, and officials say that under the bill, students can use their phones in cases of emergency. Some parents say that makes sense, and they're supporting the bill.
I agree with that, and I think if it's something happened, can the teacher call the parents or the office call the front office? Yes, the phone, we supposed to not allow the phone with the kids, yeah, that's better.
But Woodson says legislators are missing the bigger issue.
Why are we so outraged about phones? Phones that have not killed anyone. Guns have. Irresponsible gun owners. Why are we not going after that?
And I couldn't agree more. I mean, again, you can slap as many laws as you want, but at the end of the day, that is not the thing that is going to make change. That's not the thing that's going to get us closer to an actual solution. And of course, these things are always going to happen, but the important thing is that we reduce the amount of times that we're talking about it. I mean, it seems like every other month there is a new incident that is being reported, and it's incredibly sad and tragic. And I don't like really talking about this, and this is probably one of the only cases like this I will be covering on this channel, but it's important. And I think it's important that we all get a little bit more involved in our communities, whether you have children or not, because at the end of the day, you don't know. I mean, these things don't even just aren't just isolated to schools either. They can happen in any places that are heavily populated, and it's just extremely scary. And I just don't see how taking away a phone from a kid and treating them like they're prisoners is really going to help stop or reduce the amount. And if you only allow teachers to make these calls in these emergency situations, I mean, it's just what constitutes an emergency, right? What if something is happening physically to the kid, or the kid feels threatened in some kind of way, and the teacher themselves doesn't deem it as a state of emergency? I mean, I just feel like it's just way too complicated, and this is a much larger conversation around mental health care, the education system as well too, and parents taking accountability for their scumbag kids. I mean, again, it's sad. It's sad to talk about a kid like this, but at the end of the day, Solomon Henderson was extremely mentally disturbed, no doubt about it. And if his parents were enabling that behavior, that's incredibly disturbing, and they should be held accountable. But again, that's just my opinion. So this was just shared with me. This is a petition on change.org. If you want to support, you can. Mandating installation of metal detectors in all schools going forward. You can take a look here. I'm going to sign it because I do think that this is a right step in the right direction. Yes, does it make everybody feel a little bit uncomfortable? Of course it does, but this is what change looks like, and you can either continue to ignore the problem or you can actually do something about it. And I feel like this, coupling with maybe a more improved version of this AI software when it's a little bit more beta and tested, maybe hiring more resource officers and putting them in places where these incidents are more likely to take place, that would be a better use of taxpayers' money, in my opinion. So, with that being said, if you thought today's video was important, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell, and make sure you hit that like button, because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this is newsworthy news, and it needs to be talked about, it needs to be shared, and have these difficult, uncomfortable conversations. So with that being said, I will see you in the next video.